My name is Hannah. I am 33 years old, and for the past 8 years, I have worked as a senior structural restoration architect specializing in historic preservation. 72 hours ago, on a bright Tuesday afternoon, a heavy commercial flatbed truck backed into the oak-lined driveway of the historic Craftsman House on Willow Creek Lane. Standing on the porch steps was a commercial property developer named Marcus Cole, holding an industrial clipboard and a set of architectural floor plans. Beside him stood my mother, wearing her church Sunday dress and clutching a leather designer tote bag, and my younger sister, Bianca, filming a real estate reveal video for her lifestyle followers. When my sedan pulled up to the curb, my mother walked down the stone path with a tight, triumphant smile. She did not ask how my 4-hour drive had been. She did not ask why I had taken emergency leave from my firm. Instead, she stood with her hands clasped and said, "Hannah, do not start making a scene in front of the new owner. Your grandfather built this house, but Bianca needs $400,000 in liquid capital to launch her boutique wellness resort in Arizona. You have your high-paying restoration career in the city. You don't need a 4-bedroom country house. We sold it to Mr. Cole this morning. You owe your sister a fair start in life." I looked at my mother. I looked at Bianca, who was busy taking selfies against the 80-year-old hand-carved cedar front doors. That I did not scream. I did not step onto the lawn. I pulled a thin leather binder from my passenger seat, walked up to the edge of the driveway, and addressed Marcus Cole directly. "Mr. Cole," I said calmly, "did you complete the title search with the State Historical Land Registry before you wired the purchase funds this morning?" Marcus Cole paused, lowering his clipboard. The closing agent confirmed Mrs. Vance and her husband held primary occupancy rights under the 1994 estate filing. I opened my binder, extracted an official state parchment certificate with an embossed gold seal, and handed it directly to him. "Look at the bottom right corner, Mr. Cole," I said quietly. "Look at the ownership transfer clause signed by my grandfather in 2011. Marcus adjusted his glasses. He read the line. Then he read it a second time. He looked up, his face hardening as he turned toward my mother. "Mrs. Vance, why is your daughter listed as the sole remainder beneficiary and 90% legal title holder? Why isn't Hannah Vance's signature on the deed of sale?" The silence that fell over that driveway did not last 3 seconds. It lasted 15 seconds. Why mother's smile froze. Bianca stopped filming. What my mother had forgotten, and what the State Land Registry was about to enforce 48 hours later, was that my grandfather never trusted my parents with the family property. She had sold a $2 million historic estate without owning the legal right to sell a single piece of wood. To understand why my mother believed she could sell my childhood home behind my back, you have to understand 30 years of family favoritism. In our family, Bianca was treated as delicate royalty, and I was treated as the maintenance crew. Bianca was 4 years younger, charismatic, impulsive, and constantly chasing glamorous business ideas that never lasted more than 9 months. When Bianca wanted to become a fashion stylist in Milan, my parents took out personal loans to fund her apartment. When Bianca wanted to launch an artisanal candle line, my parents emptied their emergency savings. Whenever Bianca failed, my mother had a ready-made excuse. The market was saturated, her business partners were jealous, or the economy was hostile. Meanwhile, I was the daughter who spent her summers scraping paint, mixing lime mortar, and restoring the stone foundations of our family's 1912 Craftsman home alongside my grandfather, Arthur. Arthur was a master carpenter and stonemason. He taught me how to read load-bearing blueprints, how to identify dry rot, and how to respect the physical labor that keeps a structure standing. When I went to university to study historic architecture, my parents refused to contribute a single dollar toward my tuition, stating that Bianca's private boarding school fees took priority. My grandfather stepped in. He paid my tuition, gave me his old drafting table, and told me, "Hannah, a house is not just wood and stone. It is a promise. Never let people who only know how to tear things down make decisions about what took decades to build." When my grandfather fell ill in 2011, my parents rarely visited him in hospice, complaining that the medical ward smelled depressing. I spent every weekend sleeping in an armchair beside his bed, holding his hand and bringing him sketches of historical properties. Before he passed away, Arthur called his private estate attorney to his bedside. He created a strict, irrevocable living trust. He granted my parents a life estate occupancy right, meaning they could live inside the Craftsman home during their natural lives, provided they paid the annual property taxes and maintained the physical structure. But the actual fee simple title deed, the land rights, and the unconditional veto authority over any sale or encumbrance were transferred exclusively to me. My parents knew the trust existed, but over the years, their entitlement caused them to rewrite the truth in their own minds. They began treating the life estate clause as total, absolute ownership. 2 years ago, my parents stopped maintaining the property. The gutters rotted, the slate roof began leaking into the attic, and the cedar siding developed moisture damage. Whenever I offered to oversee structural repairs, my mother dismissed me. "Stop trying to control everything, Hannah. It's our house. We will maintain it when Bianca's new wellness startup becomes profitable." Then, 3 weeks ago, Bianca announced she had found the perfect commercial PLO in Sedona, Arizona, for a luxury wellness retreat. The required cash deposit was $400,000. Why parents did not have $40,000, let alone $400,000. Instead of telling Bianca no, my father approached Marcus Cole, a regional developer who'd been trying to acquire historic properties along Willow Creek Lane to demolish them for luxury condo development. Marcus offered them $1.4 million in cash for a fast, off-market transaction. My father and mother hired an unscrupulous strip mall closing lawyer, presented the old 1994 occupancy filing, concealed my grandfather's 2011 recorded deed, and signed a fraudulent warranty deed of sale. Marcus Cole wired a $500,000 non-refundable earnest deposit into my father's personal account on Monday morning. My mother immediately transferred $400,000 of that deposit directly to Bianca's wellness venture in Arizona. They did not call me. They did not inform me. I only discovered the sale when an old neighboring restoration colleague texted me a photo of a demolition permit notice posted on our front gate, that I immediately contacted the County Historical Commission, placed an emergency injunction freeze on the municipal demolition permit, pulled the certified trust deeds from the vault, and drove 4 hours directly to Willow Creek Lane. Which brings us back to Tuesday afternoon in the driveway. Marcus Cole looked between the certified 2011 trust certificate in his hands and my mother's pale face. "Mrs. Vance," Marcus Cole said, his voice dropping into a dangerous, icy tone, "did you execute a warranty deed of sale on a property where you only possess a non-transferable life estate?" My mother swallowed hard, clutching her designer tote bag against her chest. "Mr. Cole, that document is ancient history. Arthur was my father. He built this house for my family. Hannah was just a teenager when that was signed. As his living daughter, I have the moral and legal right to liquidate family assets to support my children. Property law does not recognize moral rights, Mrs. Vance," Marcus snapped. "Property law recognizes recorded deeds. I wired $500,000 to your husband's bank account 72 hours ago, based on your written sworn warranty that the title was unencumbered." Bianca stepped forward, glaring at me with raw hostility. "Hannah, why are you always trying to ruin my life? This money is for my company. Mom and Dad promised me this capital. Why do you care about an old, creaky wooden house anyway? You live in an apartment in the city." I turned to my sister. My voice remained completely calm and unbothered. "I care, Bianca, because grandfather spent 40 years hand-carving every cedar beam in this home while you were throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars on failed vanity projects. And because under the law, this house does not belong to you, Mom, or Dad. It belongs to the Arthur Vance Historic Living Trust. And I am the sole trustee." My father emerged from the front door, carrying 2 luggage cases. When he saw Marcus Cole holding the parchment deed, his face drained of all color. "Hannah," my father stammered, stepping down the porch steps. Let's discuss this inside. We can work out an agreement. We can give you 10% of the sale proceeds. There is no sale, Dad, I replied, projecting my voice so every worker on the flatbed truck could hear. The contract you signed with Mr. Cole is legally null and void ab initio. You sold stolen real estate. Marcus Cole turned to his demolition crew foreman. Shut the engines off. Pack the trucks. We are leaving. Mr. Cole, wait! My mother cried out, rushing toward his luxury SUV. We can fix the paperwork. We will get Hannah to sign an amendment. Marcus Cole opened his car door, turned around, and looked at my parents with complete contempt. Mrs. Vance, your husband has 48 hours to return my $500,000 wire deposit in full to my corporate escrow account. If every single cent is not returned by Thursday at 5 p.m., my litigation attorneys will file a criminal fraud complaint with the State Attorney General's office and place an immediate asset freeze on every bank account bearing your names. He slammed his car door and drove away, followed closely by the flatbed truck. The driveway fell dead silent. Bianca began hyperventilating, sinking onto the stone steps. Mom, the $400,000 is already wired to the escrow office in Sedona. The seller's deposit is non-refundable. If we pull it out, we lose $50,000 in penalties, and my project is dead. My mother turned on me like a cornered animal, her face contorted with rage. Look at what you have done, she shrieked, pointing her trembling finger at me. You have humiliated your family. You have destroyed your sister's dream. You are taking your own parents to the brink of prison. How can you be so cold, so heartless, so ungrateful? I took 2 steps toward her, holding the deed firmly in my hand. Ungrateful for what, Mom? I said, my voice steady and unwavering. Ungrateful for you neglecting grandfather while he was dying? Ungrateful for you trying to bulldoze 80 years of family history for a wellness spa? For 30 years, you treated me as if I didn't exist unless you needed someone to clean up after Bianca. You sold this house because you thought I was too weak to fight back. You were wrong. I pulled a second document from my folder and handed it to my father. What is this? My father whispered, his hands visibly shaking. That is a formal notice of termination of life estate due to permissive waste and fraudulent encumbrance, I said. Under Clause 9 of Grandfather's Trust, any attempt to illegally sell, encumber, or intentionally neglect the structural integrity of the property immediately revokes your right of occupancy. You have 7 days to pack your personal belongings and vacate the premises. My father fell to his knees on the stone porch, burying his face in his hands. My mother tried one last desperate plea, tears streaming down her makeup. Hannah, please. We are your parents. Where are we supposed to go? You have the remaining $100,000 from Mr. Cole's deposit, I replied calmly. I suggest you use it to rent an apartment and find a good fraud defense attorney. I turned around, got back into my car, and drove down the driveway without looking back. Over the next 2 weeks, the collapse of my parents' financial schemes was complete. To avoid criminal fraud charges from Marcus Cole's legal team, my father was forced to liquidate his remaining stock portfolio, pull the emergency withdrawal on Bianca's Sedona deposit at a massive penalty loss, and take out a high-interest private loan to return the full $500,000. Bianca's wellness project collapsed before construction ever began. She was forced to move into a shared apartment on the outskirts of town and take an entry-level retail job. 7 days later, the Craftsman House on Willow Creek Lane was completely vacant. I returned to the property with a team of historical restoration specialists from my firm. Over the next 5 months, we repaired the cedar siding, restored the original slate roof, cleaned the hand-carved fireplaces, and brought the estate back to its original 1912 glory. I did not sell the house. I registered it as a protected historical property with the State Heritage Conservancy and established it as a retreat for young female architectural apprentices. My mother left 4 voicemails on my office phone last month, begging for reconciliation and asking if they could spend Christmas in the guest house. That I did not return the calls. I saved the audio files in my legal archive, closed the file, and focused on my restoration work. People often ask why setting boundaries with family feels so painful. It hurts because you realize that the people who were supposed to protect you were willing to sacrifice your entire future to preserve their own illusions. Justice is not about cruelty. Justice is about preserving what is true, honoring the people who genuinely built you up, and refusing to let destructive entitlement tear down the foundations of your life. If you were in my shoes, would you have allowed your parents to sell the family home to help your sister, or did they get exactly what they deserved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.